be intellectually hungry. Look for new areas of expertise. Try to add to whatever you have already things that are out of your comfort zone, building that way something that is not that easy to be replaced because it combines very different perspectives. So I would say this is something that I truly believe will make us more successful leaders in the future. If you like this interview or other interviews you see at this platform, do not forget to like, share, and follow.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Vanessa Rose, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and the video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Pawel Motyl is the owner of peopleHum.com, managing partner of ICAN Leadership Lab, a certified executive coach at Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder-Centered Coaching, and member of the MG100 Coaches Pay Forward Initiative. He has 25 years of work experience in business with 7+ years as a CEO role. In 2019, he was recognized as one of the leading global coaches during the Thinkers 50 Gala in London. He's also the author of the book Labyrinth, The Art of Decision-Making, which became Harvard Business Review podcast's all-time bestseller in 4 weeks. Welcome, Pawel. Good to have you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for your kind introduction, and I am so happy with you on this interview.
You've had quite an exciting journey so far. Can you tell us your story about how you came to start peopleHum.com?
First of all, I've got a pretty diversified experience, and I was always looking for new types of experience. So I am combining the experience of an entrepreneur on one hand. On the other, I've been a consultant for more than 10 years with Hay Group. And I also was in a general management role with ICAN Institute, the publishing house for Harvard Business Review magazine in Poland. And this combination of 3 different perspectives that I try to integrate in whatever I do is extremely helpful. So second thing that always helped me was kind of openness for change. I was always hungry for new kinds of experience, new types of clients I am working with. Because I treated this as a learning opportunity. Whenever you kind of step out of your comfort zone, this is when you really develop. But most of all, I was incredibly lucky to have met great mentors on my path. People who helped me steer my career during certain stages of it. And at the same time, they became great inspirers of the actions that I was undertaking. And let me share just one real-life example with you and with the viewers, because I think it shows how powerful good mentor could be. Back in 2013, when I was the CEO with ICAN Institute in Poland, I was delivering a speech at one of the conferences. And the keynote speaker during that conference was Marshall Goldsmith himself. And after the conference, which was widely successful, people were super happy about that. Marshall asked me if I would like to spend another 30 minutes with him over coffee or tea and discuss some things. I was, of course, very happy about that. I said, Marshall, cool, such a great event. And Marshall sat down with me and asked a strange question. His question was, do you consider yourself to be a good CEO? So my first reaction was the one of surprise. Well, why are you asking this question? But all right, with Marshall, you should always be honest. So I said, I think that I am an average one. And Marshall asked another question, why do you say so? So my answer was, because being a CEO of any company is a combination of 2 roles. The role of a leader, which is about inspiring people, giving them some vision, motivating them, developing other leaders, and the role of a manager, which is about executing things, constant order, operational management, and so on. And I considered myself to be good at the former, but not really good at the latter. On average, it gave me an average CEO. So I said, I am an average CEO. And then Marshall asked the question that changed everything. Why are you spending your professional life doing something you are only average at? And this was this moment of reflection. So I thought about that for some time, and I decided to follow a different career path because I was inspired by Marshall. This is why I wrote the book, because it happened just 2 years after I resigned from the CEO position. This is how I started the consulting practice, the training practice. This is how I became a certified executive coach with stakeholder-centered coaching. This is what brought me to the place where I am in now. So my piece of advice to anyone would be look for new experience anywhere and be very open for great mentors whom I am pretty sure you've got around.
That seems very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that example with us.
All right. You asked about decision making. Yes, what is the most important thing in decision making?
I don't know what is important in decision making. Is it impact or technique?
Several months ago, before the COVID pandemics and so on, I would say impact, because at the end of the day, no matter what technique you are using, at the end of the day, you want to see the results of the decision you are making. But everything has changed with COVID, because actually, look what happened from the point of view of decision making. So far, we have operated in a world that I call the world of complexity, where is the number of things that you have to take into account. There is a number of balls you have to juggle in order to get to the right decision, right? But we have specific techniques you could utilize in order to make better choices. Nowadays, we moved into a world of ambiguity and uncertainty. It's no longer just complexity. Now it's we are somewhere in the fog. Nobody knows what's going to happen in 1 month's time, in next quarter, or next year. Nobody knows how these words will look like, which means that the environment in which we are making decisions has changed enormously. Now, what is important today, in my opinion? First of all, as things are happening very, very fast, we see more and more so-called black swan events happening. So things we were unable to foresee based on our previous experience. You have to be extremely open for change, and you have to move fast as well. So agile decision-making became extremely important. On the other hand, agile decision-making, so, acting fast, failing fast, experimenting and so on, can be deadly dangerous if you are facing so-called critical risks. So I would say the second element that is extremely important in decision-making today is being able to diversify. If you are facing a risk that is acceptable, and then it is pretty cool to be agile because you can act faster, save your time, be faster than your competitors, and so on and so on. But if you are facing a risk that might be critical, either for your organization, for your team, or for yourself, then do not act too fast. Then what is really important is so-called cognitive diversity. So it is good to surround yourself with people who are looking at things from a different angle than you, who are thinking in a different way than you. Because when you are facing a black swan event, then there is a good chance that looking at it from different angles will give you the full picture of the problem you want to solve with your decision. So basically, what really counts today, or what really pays off today, is first being able to recognize the type of situation and type of risk, and then decide if we want to act agile, and if we want to go into this fast mode in decision making, fast tracking decision making, or if we want to stop for a second, get some people to look at things, and then we are going to get to the optimal decision, because you don't want to make a mistake when you are facing a risk that is critical. The last thing that is important in decision making today is, and this might be surprising, humility. Humility, because we've been always basing the decisions we are making on our experience, things we know from the past, our skills, our expertise that we built over time. Now, the point is that in a world of uncertainty and ambiguity, sometimes the things we learned in the previous situation, that one of complexity, might be misleading. And sometimes things that we have learned in the past will not be that important in the future. So we have to stay humble. No matter how good we are, no matter how many years of accumulated experience we we have to assume that we might also be wrong when making decisions, no matter how experienced we are. Okay?
So you're saying there's no fixed, method of decision making. You just have to change based on the situation at hand.
Oh, definitely. There is not one way, not any longer. Well, in the past, we also usually had several scenarios how to act. But nowadays, the point is that we have to think about the scenario we choose, not once when we are approaching the decision, but at any point in time when new things are happening. And a number of these new things is happening all the time.
Those are some really interesting points you brought up. So also, how can leaders avoid the different biases in decision making?
This is something that has not changed in the last month. It is so human to err because of this psychological bias. And it's still, I would say, pretty simple because there are two things we should do if we want to avoid that. First, to be aware how they are created, and we will be thus able to recognize when falling into a specific trap. But let's look at several things. For example, there is one trap or one bias that is called sunk cost effect. It is the most difficult to kill the project in which we have invested time, money, and personal effort. And the more we have invested, the less neutral we are. So making the optimal decision, the right decision, is more and more difficult. So, for example, being able to recognize that we kind of identify with a specific project or task that we are working on, we love it too much. If we recognize that, we should be aware of the fact that most probably we are already falling into sunk cost effect trap. And when we recognize that, there are specific techniques how to save from how to save ourselves from that. Now, the second element of the recipe is actually about how to save ourselves when we have recognized that we are falling into a trap. And now, actually, again, this is nothing new. Building diverse teams which are aligned as far as the vision, priorities, and values are concerned. Because your team can be your greatest friend or greatest enemy in decision making, depending on how it was built. Let's imagine this strange situation when your team becomes your greatest enemy in making right decisions, right choices. Imagine that, for example, you've got a great authority over your team, okay? People admire you as a leader, and at the same time, they are conformistic. And you have recruited them so far looking for the ones who are similar to you. So there is no cognitive diversity. What's going to happen when you have certain idea what decision we as a team should make, and by the way, it is a wrong idea. Everybody on your team will say, hey, boss, this is a great idea. What a fantastic idea from you. We are of the same opinion. This is exactly what we should do. And this is the situation in which I say, okay, your team might be your greatest enemy because you will become kind of even reinforced in your choice, which is wrong. On the other hand, if you've got a team that is cognitively diverse, so you've got people who are both, you've got people who are analytical, you've got people who are conceptual, you've got people who are critical, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, they are not just diverse, it is not just a mess. They have clear understanding on what is the vision, so where we go, what are the priorities, what we should be focused on now, and thirdly, what are the values which we should instill in whatever we do, which are like guiding factors for decision making. But still having these guiding factors, you've got great discussion inside of the team, and then this team becomes your greatest friend in decision making. And they might be brave enough to say, hey, leader, we like your idea, but actually let's discuss it. Because we are of the opinion that it might not be the best choice we could make. When there is this openness, sincerity in communication, and people have got diversified views, there is a great chance that you will avoid the trap, this bias that you have just fallen into or were just about to fall into.
Yeah, it makes sense for the team to oppose you sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
every decision you take might not be really right all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
What would be your advice for young leaders just starting out in business?
Oh, it's a great question actually, and I would say there are like two major things that are important today when you are just beginning your journey into the business world. The first one is a little bit contradictory. Be bold, so be courageous, have great ideas, have great goals. Try to change the world in which you live in, but at the same time, be humble. Be humble because you will see many moments in which others would have better ideas than you. Now, if you are too bold and too courageous and so on, you might miss some great mentors who could help you in your career. Uh, if I meeting Marshall Goldsmith, which said in the past, "Hey man, what do you know about me? I am a great CEO," and so on, I wouldn't make this move. I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm extremely happy professionally. Just to make it clear. So be bold, but be humble. Be bold business wise. Be humble as a person. I think this is extremely important today. Another thing that is related to that, with time, I started understanding, or I understood that being a great leader is not just about being personally effective in what I do, about impacting people, inspiring them, and so on. The greatest measure of the quality of your leadership is the following thing: how many other leaders you have developed around you. Okay, what's your leadership legacy, so to say? And this is another thing that if I came back in time 25 years, having this know-how, having this idea, I would have spent much more time on developing other leaders around me. I'm trying to do that today as much as I can, but I weren't doing that in the past. And this is one thing I would have changed in my career if I had a chance. So don't miss it. Really, developing other leaders around you is extremely important. This is the measure of the quality of your leadership. And the final thing, I would say, and for the ones who are starting nowadays, is much easier than for people of my age or the older leaders. Embrace uncertainty because older generations usually react to uncertainty as towards something dangerous, not really nice, disturbing, and so on and so on. We don't know what's going to happen next. Well, we are no longer comfortable, calm, and so on. Whereas there is a great power in uncertainty. Each uncertain situation requires you to get out of your comfort zone, to develop, to acquire new skills. And I think for the younger generations, the ones who are starting businesses now, it's much more natural. That they kind of got used to that world where things are changing very fast, nothing is really certain, and so on. But still, don't lose it. Don't lose it. Don't get too comfortable with whatever success you attain.
That was a beautiful message. Yeah, as a leader, it all comes down to how much were you able to give back and what is the difference you were able to make.
Mm. I
Now,
fully
moving on
agree with
to,
that.
do you have any last insights that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think I could conclude our interview with a quote which I love. Actually, I've loved it for a long time, and now I think it's more important than ever before. And these are the words from great visionary Alvin Toffler, who used to say that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be the one who cannot read or write, but the one who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn again. And I think there's such a wisdom in these words, and it corresponds with the world around us so well. In the past, everybody taught us how to learn things. And the entire professional career was about learning things, kind of acquiring more and more knowledge. And at the end of your professional life, you had accumulated so much know-how, so much expertise, so much experience in a given field that you might say, okay, I am kind of complete. This is where my road ends. Maybe now I will write a book or I will become a mentor for others, whatever. what is happening nowadays, we see that more and more areas of expertise, of knowledge, are getting kind of, less important than they were before. There is certain inflation of know-how. Things are changing so fast that some things that we have learned 20 years ago are no longer important today. And still, if we were good at what we are doing so far, we stick to this past know-how, this past expertise. And it might be, again, extremely dangerous for our personal, professional careers. Because I'll give you a very specific example. Look at technology revolution around us, what artificial intelligence is doing. So many algorithms are being developed nowadays that, thanks to the mechanism of machine learning or deep learning, are acquiring skills that will be replacing human skills very soon. One example, for example, the software that translates among various languages is getting better and better with each and every day. And it's actually scary because if you have invested the last 25 years of your life, for example, into being an interpreter or translator of English language, then most probably pretty soon you will have to face the situation that you are partly, at least partly, replaced by algorithms. And by the way, there is no job or no profession on this planet that would be entirely safe from this phenomenon and from these processes. More and more things will be replaced by technology. And now you cannot simply stick to what you have learned, because if it turns out that this is something that became obsolete because of technology, then you are nowhere. Your entire career is gone. So what I am saying today is that if you want to stay in the game for as long as you can, and if you want to be successful no matter what happens, again, be intellectually hungry. Look for new areas of expertise. Try to add to whatever you have already things that are out of your comfort zone, building that way something that is not that easy to be replaced because it combines very different perspectives. So I would say this is something that I truly believe will make us more successful leaders in the future.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Pawel, for giving your time and sharing such amazing insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Pleasure is mine. Good luck and all the best.